Hello everyone, it's Wayne here from E-Stim Systems, and I've been asked to give you some insight into a few questions about the E-Stim Systems 2B. So I have a little list on my phone. First question that is commonly asked is, do I need the power supply? Yes and no. It depends. If you are a power junkie and you're going to play a lot in a studio or in your own home where you've got access to power, then the power supply is perfect. It will give you the maximum amount of power that you need to run your 2B. However, the big problem with the power supply, obviously, is you need to be plugged into the mains. Therefore, my answer is, if you're not going to play in an environment where you've got easy access to the mains, then if you use the power supply, you do have more power available. The power output is around about 30% more when you're using a power supply. Why do we do this? Well, because those little 9-volt batteries we use, we really do hammer them, and a power supply gives us that little bit more leeway. So we use the power supply. I also would suggest you only use the power supply that we supply, because it's the only one that we have actually tested, and we can guarantee that it's safe to use with the 2B. If you're going to use another power supply from another source, you could damage the 2B, or even worse, you could damage yourself, because we've got no guarantee that the power supply has any form of safe isolation, and we just don't know what it's going to do to the power box. It could damage it could damage you. So please do not use a non-E-Stim system approved power supply. Question number 2, what's the difference between the packs? Well, we only actually do 2 main packs. We do the 2B itself, which comes with a power box, the sticky pads, some cables, a battery, and that's about it really. It comes in a nice carry case. That gives you your basic 2B. The other packs we do is we do a bonus pack, which also includes a 4mm or a set of 4mm cables and a digital link cable. The reason we do this as a pack is because so many people want to have both the power supply and the digital link. We decided to give them a little bit of a bonus. Oh, that's why it's called a bonus pack. And that gives you enough to get started and take you right up to advanced levels of play, particularly with the digital link, because that allows you to upgrade your 2B. It allows you to connect it to a PC or a Mac. It allows you to control it from that computer, and it allows you to control the 2B using Connect across the internet. So you can have somebody else on the other side of the world controlling you just from their mobile phone via your PC, laptop, whatever, into your 2B. So that's the digital link, and that's the bonus pack. The accessory pack is effectively the bits of the bonus pack without the 2B. So if you buy a 2B initially and you then want to upgrade to the contents of the bonus pack, then simply buy an accessory pack. It's that simple. Now, the question I now know I'm going to be asked is, why don't we give everyone a digital link and everyone a power supply? And the simple answer is, not everyone wants to use them. Therefore, if we're going to give it to everyone and you're not going to use it, that's a little bit a waste of money, which is why we don't do it. Next question. Do you need a digital link? Again, this is related to the previous question and answer. You don't need the digital link, but if you want to take your 2B beyond what it currently does, you will need the digital link. The digital link also comes with the uplink software, and that's the only way to get the uplink software. We don't sell it separately. And the uplink software allows you to upgrade your 2B. The digital link also gives you access to Commander. It gives you access to eStim Connect. So you can play session files through your Mac or your PC to control your 2B, and you can then control your 2B across the internet. So if you want to take it to that level, then yes, you need the digital link. If you just want to use the 2B as a power box, no, you don't need the digital link. Next question. What's TriPhase? TriPhase is basically taking the 2 outputs of the 2B and combining them to produce a third, almost 3D effect. Now, there's an entire video about TriPhase on YouTube, and I will put the link somewhere here to that video. But basically, it takes 2 outputs and allows you to play in more interesting ways. Can I use Commander with audio? No, you can't. And it's really simple. Commander is a pure digitally based control system. So Commander itself is sending digital commands to your 2B to tell it which mode to go into, to tell it which levels to set, to tell it what the settings are. Audio files are processed in a completely different way, and in fact the 2B has to work quite hard to process the audio files to give you a meaningful output. You might also notice that the audio socket on a 2B and the digital link socket on the 2B are actually the same socket. They're not separate sockets. So simple answer is no, you cannot process audio files through your 2B using Commander. If you want to do that, then you should really be looking at using session files, which are digital files that can be used to control Commander and then control your 2B. So you can pre-program levels, modes, everything you want to do through a text file, a session file, and then load that into Commander and then play it through Commander and control your 2B, which for a lot of people, that's what they're doing with an audio file. The difference with the session file is you have a lot more refinement and a lot more control, and you can run session files for a lot longer. And when I say a lot longer, I think theoretically we worked out a session file could last for about 82 years, which is possibly a bit longer than you really need. Where is my manual? Where is my pads? A common question normally caused by people rushing, opening the box and going, where is it? Where's everything? And the answer is, it's behind the foam in the top. So just stick your finger in the foam. You'll find there's a little cutout at the top. Gently pull it out, and you'll discover your manual, your sticky pads, and a few other bits and pieces will be tucked in behind there. Does the 2B work with X, Y, and Z? X, Y, and Z being generally electrodes from other manufacturers. The answer is generally yes, providing you're using the right connectors. And the problem we have is that there are so many manufacturers out there and so many different types of connector. We can't guarantee that everything's going to work with everything. We do have a large selection of adapters and connectors which fit the majority of boxes out there. If you're not sure, the simple answer is drop us an email, give some details of what you actually want to run with what, and we'll do our best to help. 95% of what is out there, we have adapters and cables for. There's only some really obscure stuff that we look at and go, we've never seen that before. Everything else, we tend to have connectors for. However, just because you have a connector doesn't mean to say it's actually going to work well. We have found that some of the more obscure and some of the more, shall we say, cheaper electrodes, particularly conductive rubber electrodes, don't necessarily work that well, purely and simply because they're not that great anyway. Conductive rubber is one of those materials that can vary widely depending on who's manufacturing it, and over time it does degrade, which is one of the reasons why we tend to use solid metals in all of our electrodes, because they don't degrade over time. But again, if you're not sure, drop us an email, give us a call, and we'll do our best to help. Why do the modes feel different? Because they're meant to, right? For some reason, and this does crop up quite often, people assume that every mode should feel the same and every mode should start at the same level, which I just find really bizarre because I don't see why that would be the case. Lots of people will say to us, a particular mode doesn't do it for me, or a particular mode doesn't start at the same level as another mode. And there's a really simple reason for that. Is E-Stim is basically about using electricity to stimulate the body, and how that operates is we transfer current. Well, we actually transfer charge, if you want to be technical. Now, how we transfer that is in a series of pulses of electricity, and depending on the size of the pulse and depending on how the waveform is created, gives you a different sensation. And guess what? Different modes create different waveforms. Other manufacturers do things in slightly different ways, and they seem to manage to create things that are a little bit boring, a little bit flat, which is why you have modes that all seem to feel the same at the start. With us, we went completely threw all that out the window and basically said, well, we'll design each mode independently of other modes and create something that gives you more control over levels, settings, waveforms, which is why generally most of the modes feel different to the other modes, and generally most modes will start at different levels. This isn't a failure on your part, it's not a failure on our part, it's the way we designed it. We would, if we could, design a box that doesn't have numbers in it, because the numbers always confuse people, because they assume that they must feel something at 10%, and if they don't feel something at 10%, then something's broken, or their sub feels it at 10% and they don't feel it at 10%, then there's something wrong. And the answer is, these are just relative numbers. These are indications of level. The actual true indication of level and sensation is your subject. It is how your subject is reacting to those individual controls. So you might find that 20% on pulse with 50, 70 settings is perfect for you. And I try that and sit there going, it just doesn't do anything for me. That's the big difference. And that's the reason why we give you so many different options to control your units, whether it's a 2B, whether it's any of our other boxes, because we know everyone's different. And what you feel and what you enjoy today could be completely different tomorrow. It depends on your mood, it depends on your hydration, it depends on the temperature of yourself, temperature of the room. There's a whole list of reasons why what you feel today will be completely different to what you feel tomorrow. It's not a failure of the unit, it's not a failure of yourself, it's just life. It's the way we are built as human beings. And E-Stim was always created around that concept. The most important thing in E-Stim is to understand the reactions you're getting from what you're manipulating on the power box. If your subject is jumping up and down and screaming, if that's what you want, then that's what you work with. But if that's not what you want, maybe it's time to back things off. The biggest thing we say every time we have these sort of conversations is experiment. Find out what works for you. Don't assume because it works for somebody else, it's going to be the same for you. It's not. I'm almost guarantee that with the hundreds of thousands of people out there using E-Stim, everyone's going to be different. There's so much variation out there. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the build-up, the sensation, and just have fun. Hopefully that answers a few of your questions in relation to the 2B. If it does, please consider the old thumbs up and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below. We will do our best to answer them. In fact, we read all the comments. Sometimes that will generate another video. Sometimes we'll just reply in the comments, but we do read all of your comments. But whatever you do, please be safe and have fun. Bye.